Hi, I'm Linda Martin. You're very welcome to Dog Almighty, and this series is brought to you, of course, by Tesco. So for a happy and a healthy pet, shop in-store or online at the Tesco Pet Shop. Today's guest needs no introduction, actually, from gracing our screens at the tender age of 3 to strutting her stuff on stage with Naomi Campbell and Christy Turlington, and that was all during her Leaving Cert. So it's safe to say she's a household name. You'll recognise her as one of the girls from Expose, one of the faces of Expose, that broadcast every night into our living rooms. Please welcome Glenda GILSON. How are you?
I'm good. How are you, Linda?
I'm very well, thank you. I'm delighted to see you because it's been years since our paths have crossed, really.
I know, and we're both lovers of dogs, so this suits you down to the ground doing this gig. How many dogs do you have now?
13.
There you go.
And this little lady is called?
Yazz.
Okay, give us a story on her.
So this is Yazz from, remember that song, The Only Way Is Up?
Yes.
That's where I got the name from. She's the best dog. She's so lovable, caring. She's a really good dog. I don't have any mad stories about Yazz. Myself and Rob went to Bolton Glass and got her back in July in 2017. She was only a tiny little thing at the time, and we've never looked back. She's just... She used to go everywhere in the car with Rob. So Rob is a machinery man, so he's always on different sites and around the country. And Yazz used to just jump in the Jeep with him and off he'd go, and Rob would get out at different sites and she'd get out and walk around, and she'd always be 2 feet behind him. She's just one of those dogs. She's a miniature Schnauzer, believe it or not. Schnauzers come in 3 different sizes, small, medium and large, and they're pretty big, big Schnauzer. So we were told Yazz was a miniature. But I have a friend that is a miniature, and Yazz is twice the size.
Yazz looks pretty well fed.
Yeah. Well, she's a bit of an injury at the moment, so we're kind of spoiling her. So that's why she's a bit rounder than usual. But the reason why I got her, I'm a big fan of going to the GSPCA and all the different kennels and picking up dogs, and I have done.
I know that
for years. When I was a child, I used to come home with strangers' dogs under my arm. I'd wrap cats in blankets. My hands, if you look at them, are covered in scars. My face used to be too, and my mother used to be like, whose cat or dog does she have now? And I'd wait for the hour thinking, that's it. They have no owner. I have this dog. And then the doorbell would go, can I have my dog back, Glenda?
Yeah.
Like, there you go.
So they knew where to go to when their animals went missing.
Yeah, I used to go up trees after them. I've always been that lover of dogs and cats, animal lover. But anyway, my friend had a Schnauzer. I used to go up to her house. I'd actually ended up going up there to see her dog more than I saw her because I loved the dog so much. I loved the personality. So that's why I went to a breeder and got a little Schnauzer. And as I said, we've never looked back with Yazz.
And I have to say that we have very good breeders in Ireland.
Yes.
So, I never say to people, don't do that. If that's what you want to do, if you want to buy a particular breed, do your research.
Absolutely.
And go and find somebody who's reputable. Absolutely.
Yeah, because these are all legit as well. So you can't just look past them and look at the kennels all the time. It's great to look at the kennels, but...
So obviously dogs and cats have always been a big part of your life. They've always been in your house.
Absolutely. I've only ever had one cat, though. My mom was allergic to cats, or so she said. And we only had one. And the cats, as we said, they were scraping the face off me. I had them wrapped in blankets. You can't wrap a cat in a blanket. I could do that all day long with. But so the cats were gone, even though I keep saying to Rob now, I'd love a little cat.
Yes.
And he's like, where are you going with this cat? But anyway.
Absolutely. I totally agree with
I'd
you.
love more dogs, but I've the kids at the moment. I have enough going on without.
I think you have.
Yeah.
Somebody was asking me earlier this morning, believe it or not, about getting a dog. And I said, well, have you done your homework?
Yeah.
Do you work? Is there somebody at home during the day?
Yeah.
Have you got children? Have you got a garden? And they were sort of saying, oh, well, I said, go away and do your homework and then think about it.
Yeah, because myself and Rob used to live in an apartment. So that's why Rob would take her out all day.
Yeah.
And if he couldn't, we used to bring her over to my mum's. And she'd sit in with my mum, and my mum would yap away to her all day. So she's never been a dog that we throw out the back. She's a real home dog anyway.
No.
So
does she sleep with you?
she does. Yes.
Under or on top of the duvet?
On top, on top. She has her own little blanket at the end. So, and she doesn't budge. Like,
No,
you
they
could kick her in the
don't.
head and
They
she'd still lie
don't.
there, you know?
No,
She loves her comfort.
I have a couple, one on top and one underneath. But I don't care. I don't care.
Is that what you're calling them, Linda?
Here, let me take you back to 1986.
Oh, gee. Okay.
Michael Jackson Parc Uí Chaoimh, which
Yeah.
they're trying to rename or something, Super Value Queeve or so. I don't know what it
Really?
was.
Okay.
It's sponsorship, you see. It's all coming
Okay.
from sponsorship. But what actually happened?
So we went down, my mum and dad, myself and my brother, and my Uncle Liam and Auntie Hazel and their kids, and we all headed down. My uncle got the tickets. We went down to Parc Uí Chaoimh. In we went, all going great. And I was the youngest of the two families. And of course, the older ones were allowed to go into the pit, and I was stuck with the parents. So I had a face on me.
Oh, I'm sure.
I was really annoyed about that I wasn't old enough and cool enough to go into the pit. Like, as I was way too young to do it. Anyway, my mum and dad brought me up to the stand. Up we went, and the minute that we sat down, I felt like I was missing out. I wanted to be down there. And I said to my mum, I need to go to the toilet. And she said, well, your father can bring you.
Yeah.
So my dad says, grand, so he brought me, and in we went down onto the stage, and the toilets were behind the stage or underneath the stage. And in I went, and while we were coming back, this guy came over and he said, would your daughter American guy, would your daughter like to get on stage and dance with Michael Jackson? And I remember kind of going, what? And my dad going, yes, she will.
She would.
Bang,
She'd
pushed
love it.
in. And there was about 20 kids lined up, and on we went. And Linda, I never saw the footage. Oliver Barry was the promoter at the time, and I used to plague Dennis Desmond. He was like, who's another promoter, and I was like, can you get me that footage? And he'd say, Oliver Barry did that, go and ask him. Asked him, and he was, no. But if I look on YouTube, there's people with old camcorders.
Yes, of course.
They recorded like certain sets, like Dirty Diana, and all these different sets, different songs that were performed, that he performed. Still no sign of any kids coming on stage. And then that documentary came out about Finding Neverland.
Yes.
And it was a 2-part documentary, I remember, and I was glued to it. And there I came on the stage with a side pony.
No
and
way.
a blue tracksuit on me, and got up on that stage. Don't ask me about the dancing. The dancing hasn't improved since then. It was brutal.
I'm going to find that and look at it again.
Well, you'd probably have to know it's me, though. You know, you'd have to, because it was blurry and yeah. But anyway.
So you said to the rest of the family who were in the pit,
well, they saw me on the screen, and my brother, after, it's typical her. She gets up on stage.
She gets right up on stage. That's absolutely brilliant.
My brother gives me a serious slag, and if we're out and someone tries to take his picture or anything, he's like, I'm not like my sister. I don't want my picture taken. He says, she drives past the cameras on the M50 and poses.
Like, smiles.
Can you imagine?
Oh, yeah, I can imagine. I remember that concert, and I so badly wanted to be there, but I was working. In those days, we gigged all the time, you know. So, but I'll tell you where I was.
Right.
I was at the Supermodel Show in Dublin.
Oh, yeah.
When you were modelling there. And there I was in the audience, looking just in awe at those supermodels.
I was 17 when I did that show.
Oh, my God.
That was like some spectacular occasion to look back on, to be at. Like, I was only saying there a while ago, Naomi Campbell was late for it, and Pat Kenny, it was live.
I know.
And live onto RTE, and Pat Kenny was hosting the gig, and he had to go on and I think just talk rubbish for a few minutes, and then he cut to a break, and then they had to put up this sign back in the day when, remember, the TV would turn off and the coloured circle would come on, whatever you'd call that. That went on to for people at home, and then Naomi arrived with her police escort, arrived in, and all the Irish supermodels that had been given 3 looks.
Yeah.
She went, oh no, I like that dress. I like that one. I like that one. It took them all off, the Irish girls, and she got to wear them. And now she looked phenomenal walking down that catwalk. She opened up for Philip Tracy. She had a big ship on her head, ship hat, and like the legs. She was like a panther walking down the
She really
catwalk.
is. She's just
I've
seen her not on TV. I've never seen her in real life apart from that one night. Yeah. But by God, could she walk?
Yeah. Oh, I interviewed her years later. She was the face of Newbridge Silverware here in Dublin.
Right.
And I interviewed her for Expose, and I really liked her now.
Yeah.
Of course, it was all about her, and it was all about the supermodel era, and she was all about the supermodels back in the day, and she thinks that there's never been a supermodel like them made since. So,
well, do you know something? In a way, I see where she's
pack
coming
of them,
from. The
yeah.
pack. You remember Linda Evangelista, Claudia Schiffer,
Cindy Crawford, Naomi,
and her daughter now is gorgeous.
And Naomi, they did a thing because they weren't hiring black models, so they all stood together and they got Naomi in, and that's what they did. It was like one got a certain price for a job, and the others were working just as much. And it was like, no, I'm not doing. That was where the famous line, "I'm not getting out of bed for $10,000."
Yeah. But I mean, there's just you mentioned supermodels. That's who I think of.
Yeah.
Now, I totally agree with. We had our fabulous models here as well, our Irish models, and you were one of them. And I was talking to the girls earlier on today, and we were all invited to things back in the day. In fact, we would have gone to the opening of an envelope, if the truth be known. But I think
we did a few times.
I think we did. But there we were, and the models were floating around with the heads in the air, you know. And then there'd be Glenda, who'd wave over and smile. And I always remember that because you were always friendly to everybody. And I think. Never mind the look of you. Yeah. I think your attitude propelled you to being one of the top ones we had here. Why did you stay in Ireland?
Well, that was the thing. You just answered it there. You needed to have a bit of personality in Ireland.
Yes, but you had it.
You couldn't arrive and think that you're on Vogue and that, you know, you were going to take over Naomi Campbell's career to the next day. It was like, have a bit of personality, talk to the client. This was I used to get a gig years ago and I'd still be friends with them, and all day I'd have to try on clothes. So these shops all around the country would come in and they'd buy their new collection for the season, and they'd make me try on a coat. That was my job. Try on that coat there in green, and they'd love it so much. You'd be like, put it on in red, and then in purple, and then in blue, and then I was like, for fuck's sake. And the next day, honestly, I'd wake up and all the pains in my arms. I know that sounds, it'd be like, but the reason why I kept getting brought back is because halfway through I'd be so bored trying on clothes. I'd say, would you love a cup of tea? I'll make you a cup of tea. And off I'd go into the kitchen.
Isn't she lovely?
And make tea and eat biscuits. Yeah. That's the only reason why I was in there, so I could have a break and look at my phone or whatever. And afterwards it'd be like, Jesus, you've no problem making tea. It was like, sorry, that's the best part of the day.
Absolutely. But why didn't you go to London or America or Paris?
Because I was such a home bird. I love Dublin. I started to do well when I came out of school. Yeah. I went in, I did college. I did TV and radio broadcasting and print and media journalism in college. But I didn't finish it because I was modelling so much. And then I got offered the opportunity to work on television. So you don't just leg it when you have those. So I always worked. So like I never went away on a summer holiday for more than 2 weeks. Like I had friends that went away for months, lived in different countries. I was like, no. Yeah. And the day we slagged Mags Humphreys, who was our agent in Assets Model Agency for years.
Yeah.
And we'd go away for like a funeral, and she'd go, Jesus, Vogue was on last night, you missed them. Like they wanted you for the cover. Like, Mags. You know, I'm here every day, and you know, you don't get these things. I
get that, what you're saying. Yeah. Because we've all had offers over the years. Yeah. From London, I remember Las Vegas, I remember different things, and with different outfits, groups, all sorts. And it was always my attitude, no, I don't think I'd be able for that. And I want to stay with the group, and sure, I'd have nobody with me. I'm looking back on it, and I think you'd be the same. I should have just said, well, to hell with this, I am gone. If I don't like it, I can come back.
Yeah, absolutely. But look.
Yeah. Anyway, it didn't do you any harm.
Yeah.
The things we did, no, I don't want to think about them, Glenda. I don't want to think about them. No, but I want to ask you about the Miss Hawaiian Trop.
Oh, my God, you're going back.
It doesn't matter, though, because, you know, I use this stuff anyway, the Hawaiian Tropic stuff. But it's just, we've people who are watching and listening. Yeah. And, you know, a few of them will know you, of course, and a few may not know you. But this is background on how you succeeded. Yeah. And if this was Celine Dion sitting in I'd want to know all of these secrets. Yeah. So I'm putting myself in the viewer's seat.
Absolutely.
They want the info. Yeah. So tell us.
So Hawaiian Tropic, I was modelling at the time. I had a cousin that started working for Hawaiian Tropic here in Ireland, and she got on to me and said, you know, there's a competition every year and all these girls go off to be a Miss Hawaiian Tropic girl. And I was like, no, that's not for me. World peace and all that. No, you know, the silly wave. And anyway, I ended up on it and I won Miss Europe, and I ended up going off to the States then. And I was runner-up as Miss Europe, because I was Miss Ireland to Miss Europe too. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it was the bikini competition. It was ran by a guy called Ron Rice, lovely guy, American man, and met loads of girls. It was very American. So there was that side of the world. Like there was probably Ireland was probably the only European country there. The rest was the rest of the world outside Europe. And yeah, it brought me to. I did the 24-hour Le Mans with them. I did Cosmopolitan, I did Marie Claire, I did all these magazine spreads. I did a few shoots in London. Then it brought me to Hawaii, and then I went to Vegas with it. So I did have a great old time. But I had the sash on, Miss Ireland bikini, and I said world peace and waved like a spanner.
But anyway, thrilled when the phone calls did come in for you. Oh well, she's not going to work for less than 10,000. You know, I can just imagine her.
But see, I had that when I got over there. Ron Rice, the guy, he was a pharmacist originally, and he made this sun cream and he called it Hawaiian Tropic, and that's where, and then it turned into, he had the beauty competition, but he used to call me the mad woman from Borneo, because he said my hair was
yes, of course,
and he was like, you don't look like an Irish girl. He didn't believe it for a second. He was like, you're supposed to have white skin and red hair. I was like, yeah, go on. But
I always wanted your hair. You know,
I know you can have it. It's
I know
still
you're
there.
not curls today, but I always wanted it. Why can I not have hair like that? And I'd have it huge. It'd be like a huge bush on the top of my head. But anyway, but that must have been a great experience.
It was, absolutely. And looking back on it, it was it was something else. Yeah.
And you can conquer the
I
world.
loved that time. I loved modelling, and I loved being around. That was just, and as you said, going back, models were treated totally different back then. You know, they were really celebrated in Dublin. Like stores would open, could get into any club. You know, they were the things back then. Now we're not thinking of those. But
no, and do you know something? I know a few of the models these days, not personally that I would recognise them, but not like the old times, not like through the 90s and everything. No, but then that led you into TV.
Yeah.
Did you get an offer? Did you audition? How did you do it?
I got a phone call from a girl I had worked with, a PR girl, and she said there was these two guys, young guys, really successful fellas. They left school at 16 and they just went on and on and on to do great things. I could go into their portfolio, but they're now in LA working away. They have an office on Sunset.
Who are they? Can you say?
They're two guys called James Highland and...
I remember.
Yes.
Yes.
And I'm stuck on the other fella's name now, but James is the one I dealt with all the time. Anyway, he set up a music station, 24-hour music station, another one like Expose, where people said that it won't work. He had no ads whatsoever, so every show was sponsored. So Ryanair sponsored one, whoever else sponsored another. And I had a show on it called Glenda's Showbiz Goss. And I'd do a top 10 or top 20 countdown and into the music. And we'd have Louis on and different people like that. And that's what I did, and I'd record that. I'd go into studio out in Ashburn, I remember, and record that 3 times a week, but it was 24/7. And then I got the offer of Expose, and sure,
was brilliant.
I got the offer from Andrew Hanlon for Expose, and I joined the team, and I was told I'd be there for 6 months, and 6 months only. And I lasted over 13 years with them. So, yeah.
I loved that programme at night. I'd be eating my dinner and Expose had come on.
We all love it looking back. But when we were in the thick of it, it was like, jeez, get me out of here.
It was hard work.
It was brilliant, but it was hard work. Yeah,
because you've no committments, have you? You weren't married, you'd no babies.
It was great, though. You were on flying away. And if you got the Oscars, or if you got like the film festivals or Fashion Week, all those, they're fab.
Did you get loads of free clothes?
You wouldn't get free clothes as much, but you might get Yazz. She's getting sick of listening to me. Do you hear her crying? You might get beauty products are always ones that they'd give you more so than clothes. You know, they're easier because one size fits all.
Yeah,
you know?
That's true. Now, tell me this: do you remember the ad you did with Louis Walsh, and you were lying on top of him? I can't remember the product.
I actually can't believe I can't remember this. Yeah. You'd think I'd still have nightmares over being on top of Louis doing something. I don't know what we were doing.
I remember him telling me about it. And usually I remember things, but I can't think of what the product was. And this one of our viewers actually says, oh, I remember that because I did the ad. But I'd say that was quite exciting.
Like all the things over the years I've done with Louis, I've done a lot.
Yeah.
But there's something in the back of my mind that's reminding me, but I can't remember.
Could that be, or could that fall into the category of the weirdest thing you've ever done,
Yeah,
or the weirdest thing
probably
you've?
would.
Yeah, exactly.
I'd say it was weird for Louis as well. I'm not on my own there.
Yeah,
But we probably had some giggle knowing
I'd
the
say
two
you
of
did.
us.
I'd say you did. But listen, I know you're great friends with Louis, obviously, and he's lovely. He's lovely to everybody. But who's been your wackiest interview with? I'll give you a couple of examples.
Okay.
Russell Brand.
Oh my God, you hit the nail on the head straight
Yeah.
away. He was, I tell you, you'd want to be up early for Russell Brand. He's very clever. He's a very smart individual. He will talk over you. It's all about him. He demands attention. And I went in to interview him for a movie he did. Oh, can't remember the name of the movie, but I went to interview him in London. It was a junket style movie.
Right.
So we're very close. As you know, they put the chairs very close. So your knees are nearly touching off each other. Now, everyone knows Russell Brand has very long legs. And I went in to meet him. My own legs aren't too short.
That's right.
So I was kind of sitting back into the seat because he was all like this. This is the way he was when I came in. So I was like, Russell, how are you? And he was like, all right, what's your name? And I said, Glenda. And he kept calling me Bendy Glendy, Bendy Glendy. So I crossed my legs the way I have them right now.
Yeah.
But I decided to go for a second so I'd keep them tucked in and I wouldn't touch off him. So what does he do? He grabs my heel here and pulls my leg up and I couldn't move them. And of course I went into a sweat because he kept saying, Bendy Glendy, you look like you should be in you look like you're an 80s porn star, he kept saying to me. I was like this throughout the whole interview. And when I left, it was like someone had thrown a bucket of water over my face. As I said, you want to be up early. Now he was nice. I can't really say much about. He answered every question, but he was overpowering, and he just takes he puts you on the back heel. You know, someone that just and they keep looking at you, and they're this far away from you, and it's
look
like
at the trouble he's in now.
Well, we didn't know all these things back then, but certainly I walked out half the person I walked in.
Yeah, I could believe that.
Yeah.
Pressure, you say.
Yeah.
And he knew exactly the pressure.
It's like,
yeah.
Put the sweat on her and make her feel like a bit of an
absolutely.
Aegis, and he did it.
I often think when these so-called stars, when they start misbehaving, somebody should say, stop.
Yeah.
No, we don't behave, babe. But they don't.
Yeah.
They let
Don't
them
speak to a human being like that.
Yes,
Thanks. Yeah.
and the behaviour gets worse and worse and worse until it's too late, and then a huge expose happens.
Yeah.
And then they're in serious trouble. But anyway, he's in the
Huge
trouble now.
expose.
Huge expose.
There you
I
go.
know that. Now, you've a family link to George Clooney. Aren't you lucky? Jesus.
I wish.
Did you exploit it?
Oh, this is embarrassing. My mother found this one out now.
Yeah.
I'll tell you how it is. Let me go back to it. My mom's mom is a Clooney,
All right.
right? Her surname is Clooney. Is that right? Her mother, my mom's mother was a
Right.
Clooney.
Okay.
And Rosemary Clooney, who was, I
Yes, oh
think,
yes.
George's aunt,
That's right.
was my granny's sister. Is that right?
Yeah.
Listen.
Yeah.
I'm actually going red thinking about it. It's so, and my mother was on RTE talking to one on the Rhine line or one of them years ago talking about it. And my brother rang up and said, get her off the phone now. But there's some sort of but anyway, I interviewed him on the red carpet in Leicester Square, and I said to him, I'll never forget it, I was like, so, George, how are you? State. And I was like, we could be cousins, we're related. And he was like, oh, really? And I said something to him like, isn't that great? Like as if he's thrilled to be related to me. But anyway, yeah. We just...
His aunt that you're talking about, Rosemary Clooney, huge star.
Yeah.
Gigantic star.
Yeah.
And I think, God help her, she drank herself or drugged herself or did all the wrong things.
Okay.
And which is a terrible shame, but anyway, we can't get into that. But I just read something about him recently. He's been in Ireland.
Yes, so that's what I was going to say.
Yes.
So I had a friend called Andy Ring, and he used to own a bridal shop down in Abbey Leaks.
Right.
Okay, and he was a show band fella, loved the guitar, loved playing the drums. Set up this shop in Abbey Leaks, and of course I start working for him modelling years ago, and I do every show for him. Anyway, doesn't he get years later? I still speak to him on the phone all the time. He's a mad outfit. I call him insane all the time. But he rang me up and said, I'm part of the Irish Tourism Board, and we're setting up this big thing. He said, you're not going to believe who's coming to Abbey Leaks, who's from Abbey Leaks, George Clooney. So he did the whole thing, brought George here, and that's when I got to hear more. So I feel like, and then when my mother threw that in, that we were related, I was like, oh, Jesus. And then Andy, my mad friend, he's like, why didn't you tell me you were related? I could have had you. I was like, well, just shut up. We're trying to keep that one under
Absolutely. She sent your mother anyway.
Yes, she would have went.
Listen, why didn't she trace it back? Your mom, because she sounds on the ball.
She did, Linda. I'm sure she traced it back 500 million times over, but myself and my brother are just not listening. It was like
Why?
Yeah. Because everyone would like to be,
Are you nuts?
like to be related
And
to
you know
George
something? He loves animals.
Yeah.
He's got pigs and all sorts of things.
Does he?
Oh, yeah. And he's a bit of a prankster as well.
Yeah, he's gorgeous.
Very popular guy now, because I think he's a bit of a wide boy, really, you know, and she's gorgeous.
And my brother is not too dissimilar to him.
Really?
Like, there's a look. He'll kill me for saying that, but yeah, like the George Clooney has no top lip. My brother kind of has that look, and the colour of the hair and the
eyes and everything.
And every time I say it to him, he's just like, he doesn't want to know either.
Oh, tell him to wise up. Jesus, you could end up in one of his next movies. What's the next one? Ocean's 20 or something.
20, I was going to say that. Yeah.
Oh, you never know. And talking about movie stars, which we've just been doing, you've obviously met Barry Keoghan. Am I saying that right?
Keoghan, yes. Jesus, isn't he doing well for himself?
What?
Yeah.
What was he like?
He was lovely. A trickster, just laughed through the whole interview. I interviewed him here, and I interviewed him at the Oscar Wild green carpet in LA just before the Oscars. And yeah, he was great. That was like, when was that? That was 5 years ago, I think. 5 or 6 years ago.
Is he going to get the Oscar? We hope, we keep our fingers crossed.
He's doing he's some talent.
I'm telling you. Maybe he likes animals, Glenda. You didn't ask him that, did you?
I didn't ask him that one at the time. Sorry, Linda. We were all about Oscars and trophies at that stage.
Or what about Cillian Murphy?
Cillian Murphy, yeah, love him.
Yeah.
He's gorgeous.
Does he like animals?
I don't know.
Oh,
I don't know. He does, actually.
Yeah.
I passed him only... there's a story for you. I passed him a couple of years ago in Monkstown.
Okay.
And himself and his wife were having a yap, and he had a dog on the lead, and I was petting and kissing the dog as usual. Yeah. And I looked up and I was like... It's Cillian Murphy.
Isn't the wrong
of all
one?
the dogs. Well, yeah. But I've been in Cillian's company plenty of times. He's a friend of Liam Cunningham's, who's a friend of mine, and they did The Wind That Shakes the Barley together. So we were down in Cork, and when they had a premiere for that movie, and we had a good old shindig afterwards. And Cillian, he's like a little boy. He's tiny.
Really?
Tiny, and the young face on him. He's one of
eyes,
those
the eyes.
gorgeous, that won't ever age. You'll always think he's a young guy,
and
you know?
he had a dog with him now, so that's food for thought.
There you go.
Now, Cillian.
A Labrador.
Was it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Is he still living in Ireland?
I think he is. Sure, didn't he hop on the Aer Lingus plane the day after the Golden Globes and come back here? Typical Ireland. Everyone else is like, stay in the heat. He's like, no, I'll go home.
Because I remember talking to Brenda Fricker about the Oscars.
Yeah.
And she says, sure, we hadn't a clue. We didn't know. We're not going to win anything. Let's go to the bar, which they did. And they're throwing the drink back. And the next minute, somebody's running, quick, get up there. You've just won, you know.
Yes.
It's so Irish.
Isn't
it? It is, Glenda. Who's the best person you've ever interviewed?
There's been plenty, I have to say. But usually the bigger the star, the nicer the person.
Yes.
Your big brothers, your people that have made it overnight are a pain in the arse. Sorry.
Correct.
But they usually, and you walk in, it's like, what are you going to ask me? It's like, feck off. You're lucky I'm asking you questions.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's this, like, who worked in a shop a week before.
Exactly.
And now it's like, where are you going with it? It's like, come on. So I have a good one of Dennis Hopper.
Oh, yeah.
Dustin Hoffman, actually. I always mix the two of them. I have a good one on Dustin Hoffman. I'll go again on that.
I hope he was nice.
He was so lovely. This involves my mother.
Again?
We were in Paris at the rugby. and we were in the Ritz Hotel in the lobby.
As you do.
As you do. We were only passing by. And
Like you didn't think of what you call one of the chain hotels.
No, we were probably staying there. We went up there for a coffee,
Comfort
Linda.
Inn or something.
Yeah,
like
we
that.
just went in to go to the toilet.
Right, okay.
And my mum says to me, Jesus, look who's over there. It's only Al Pacino, right? So I turned like this and looked, and she said, come on over with me. And she legs us this way.
Your mother sounds like...
She said, I'm making her out to be a mad thing, but she like mad in the head, but she's actually all right. She's not there yet. I looked, and there was Dustin Hoffman.
Yeah.
So she comes back to me. I'd stayed there hiding in the wings, and she comes back and she said, I can't believe you didn't come over to me and say hello to Dustin. And I say hello to Al. And I said, yeah, that's because you're talking to Al Pacino, not Dustin Hoffman. She goes, oh, Jesus Christ, she said. And she goes, I have to go back over and apologise. So she goes back over to him and apologises. And he was so lovely.
Yeah.
That's grand. A couple of years later, I'm on the red carpet, Leicester Square. And I said, I have an apology to make on behalf of my mother. And he says, oh, go on. And he was so used to answering. You could see by him every question for the movie.
Yeah.
So when he heard this, he kind of lit up and he said, go on. And I said, yeah, she went over to you and said, hello, Al Pacino. And he says, no. And he kind of looked at me and he said, what's your mother's name? And I said, Aileen. And he just grabbed the camera lens and he went, hi, Aileen. Thanks for watching me in Dog Day Afternoon and The Godfather. Keep up the support. And we aired it on Expose. And I told my mother, I said, Mom, watch the TV tonight. And I came in just as it was aired. And there she was with the cushion over her face going, I cannot believe you put that on the TV. She was mortified.
That's where you get the personality from. Is your daddy quiet?
He's very quiet.
Ah, okay.
Very quiet.
Opposites attract.
There you go.
And it's obviously worked.
Yeah.
So he just shakes his head. He just sits.
says
I can
nothing.
imagine him. Yeah. All
Yeah.
right. Who's the worst person you've ever interviewed?
The
And you
worst.
could be honest with us now.
I know. I have to stop being too honest. That's my problem. Who? Oh, there's always one. I need to get a new one. Natalie Imbruglia. She was a horror.
No.
She was an absolute horror. She was the most beautiful looking
Oh,
girl
yes,
I have
yes.
ever seen in my life. She was such a stunner. Her lips, every part of her face was amazing. I interviewed her over in London, and she just wasn't nice. And I was told she was in the middle of a relationship with someone, and I was told, do not ask that about
I know who it was.
It was Richard Branson's son. Yeah. And I was told, do not ask about her personal life. And I said, of course. And I wouldn't do that, you know. I'm not a journalist. I was a TV presenter. So I said, I won't do that, no problem. And towards the end, she did this to me and went, can you finish this up? Like this. And I just went. So my cameraman dropped the camera as if to say it's over. And I remember looking at him going, pick up the fucking camera. And I looked at her and I said, so are the rumours true about you and Sir Richard Branson's son? And she just saw red
Yeah.
and didn't like it. I probably shouldn't have done that, but she was a bit of a bitch. But
And it was the son.
the son, it wasn't the father. Yeah, it was the son. Oh, maybe you know something different. Jesus, we could have had another expose girl on our team.
No. I'm not
There we
saying
go.
anything. I'm not saying anything.
Well, I remember then she came over for Arthur's Day, and a few the PR girls in Dublin, one of them came over to me and said, you were so right about that
Yeah.
girl. She said she was a horror. But when I got up to go away from her, I said to her, which you won't believe this, I said, tell your sister Michelle I said hi. She kind of looked at me. Yazz. Do you hear her crying? She looked at me and kind of her face dropped. So I had been going out with a guy. We went to Australia. Mm-hmm. He was invited onto a radio station. The radio station had to bring us out for a meal. These two guy and girl were told to bring us out. And halfway through the meal, I looked at the two of them and I said to the girl, you're seeing him, aren't you? And she was like, yeah. She's like, but we're not allowed. They weren't allowed that in the workplace.
Yeah.
And as the night went on, we had a great night with them. And as the night went on, I said to her name was Michelle. I said, Michelle, you look so like Natalie Imbruglia. And she said, yeah, it's my sister.
Yeah,
I was
but
like,
she
what?
was nice.
But we went back to the house, their family home at 3:00 in the morning. There I was looking at all the pictures on the wall, and there's Natalie Imbruglia. And then I got to interview her. So I left that one for when she was a bitch. I was like, tell your mom and dad they were so lovely to allow us into the
And
house.
what'd she say?
Oh, her mouth dropped.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
But anyway, I shouldn't have asked that question. But
You should. You were right. Because I know the big hit she had was Torn.
Yeah.
No, I'm not going to say any more. I know she had the big hit Torn.
yeah, but we all start dressing like her. Do you remember that hoodie and the
Yes, yeah,
cargo
yeah,
pants
yeah,
that she was
yeah.
wearing? It was a real look.
And where's she now? excuse me,
Yeah.
whereas you're still here.
Where's Glenda now? Yeah.
No, 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 no.
I'm sure she's worried.
Oh, I wouldn't even think about it. But you're right, actually. The bigger the star, the nicer
Yeah.
they are. It is
Yeah.
very true. Very,
Yeah.
very true. And it's, when you think about it, they've learned how to behave with people.
Yeah.
Whereas these overnighters, and we've seen it, because you remember the weekends we used to spend with Louis at the X Factor, and
Were the good old days, weren't they?
great days. Oh my God, were they great?
I was only saying to you though beforehand, we'll tell everyone that I used to love to go over when Sharon and Ozzy would bring their dogs.
Yeah.
And I'd say, no, I won't go out to the auditorium. I'll just sit here in their room and mind the dogs. And
Yeah.
Sharon would be thrilled. Oh, thank
Yes.
you. I'd be like, I couldn't think of anything better.
It was brilliant.
Yeah,
Absolutely
two
brilliant.
gorgeous little dogs.
And we met all the so-called winners or the not-so winners. We met
Yeah.
all of them, and some were nice and some weren't so nice. Yes,
was a great old
but it was
time.
great.
Yeah.
And Louis' dressing room after the show.
That was the party central,
Everybody
wasn't
wanted in there. And there was so much champagne, the food, everything.
it? Yeah, and
Incredible.
Louis in the corner drinking tea.
Drinking
while the
tea,
rest
yes.
of us were horsing into the
And
chamfers.
I remember he said to me, Linda, come over here. He says, this is Diane Warren. And big songwriter,
Yeah.
writes for Cher, writes for everybody, and an
Yeah.
amazing woman. And there she was sitting in the corner with Louis drinking her tea, just in an ordinary sweater and jeans, so quiet, so demure.
You wouldn't know who you'd meet in that room.
Absolutely. You didn't know who
Like you
was
could
there.
walk in, hiya Louis, and he wouldn't tell you that fucking Elvis was alive
Yeah.
and sitting beside him in the
Yeah.
room, you know?
Yeah, I met so many people in that dressing room. And some were gorgeous, and
Yeah.
some were just there to meet Louis. They didn't want to talk about anybody else. But but it was an
Yeah,
experience.
It was a great time.
Oh, it was
It really was.
oh my God. Now, I want to talk to you about a show you did. It was a TV show, and you did it with Vincent Brown from The George.
Oh,
and it was
yeah.
all to do with the marriage referendum.
Yeah.
Now, do you remember that clearly?
I do, of course. That was a great old day. I think we were 2 hours live on television, and they pushed it 5 minutes towards the end. They said, we're going for another 2 hours. It was just doing so well. And it was like, what? I was interviewing Bosco at one stage. Bosco doesn't have a mouth and doesn't move. And the place is like a nightclub. And here I was, hello, Bosco. Trying to read. And it was like, no. And it was like, Bosco saying, I didn't know what. It was just, they literally were, I remember Brian Foley was the producer on it. He was just pulling people out of the crowd. And sure, people were there so thrilled with what had gone through. And they were drinking. And it was like, you had people at the start of the programs really, together. And by the end, it was like, woo! It was like,
Locked.
it was, yeah.
And did you find Vincent charming?
I love Vincent.
Yeah.
I always got on
Same
great
here.
with Vincent.
I think he's brilliant.
He's when we were in the newsroom in Virgin Media, and if he was, he'd tell me he's a great fella for stories, and I
Yeah.
knew all the ins and outs, and I'd sit listening to him for ages. And there was one particular story he told me, I won't reveal it, but he told me the story about someone. And then he kind of did the exact same thing himself. He was written about in the papers, and we were in the middle of a meeting in the newsroom one day, and he walked in, and I just stared him out of it until he turned around. And you can feel someone looking at you. And I just did this when he looked at me, and he, the little shit, got away from his desk and walked straight over while my producer was holding a meeting, and he was like, what are you talking at me for? I was
Yeah.
like, he's a devil. I'm mad
really
about
is.
Vincent.
I used to love it when the politicians wouldn't face him at night.
Yeah.
Excuse me. And they'd say something stupid, and Vincent would go, well, in actual fact,
Yeah.
that's what you said.
Yeah.
And they'd scurry off. Oh, I loved it. The politicians have such an easy time now. I just wish Vincent was back giving them grief.
I remember another time he was out live reporting, and he was attached, his mic was attached to a cameraman that I worked with as well, and they were told not to go past this threshold. Do not go by. You will be sued. You will be arrested. Feckin' Vincent jumped over the other side, and he had the mic and the camera. It was attached to the camera, and he kept going, come in here. And he was like, we're not allowed. He said, get in here. He was disgusted that a cameraman wouldn't move with him,
Just
and get the story.
fantastic,
Yeah.
Fantastic. Now, somebody, I believe, made up a song about you.
Oh, jeez.
Is it true?
About living in the back of a van.
I don't know. I was just told it was on Instagram.
That's it. And it goes with, my name is Glenda Gilson and I live in the back of a van. Don't ask me, Linda. I don't know. But it literally, I wasn't tagged. It wasn't sent to me. I was scrolling through Instagram late at night and I came across this. You can imagine the shock. And my heart just went into, and I turned to Rob. I said, what's this shit? And I remember just the freak out, because it's like, what is this about? Is there something... Are they trying to tell me something else? And sure, someone else said to me, did you ever live in the back of a van? I was like, no, I didn't.
No,
Like, I think I'd remember if I lived in the back of a van.
I can't see you in the back of a van.
But
Is it funny?
Well, I got on to the guy. He's a comedian, stand-up, and I said, and he seemed pretty honest by the text. I was like, what is this all about? And he was like, look, there's no badness in it. He said, I write these skits.
Yeah.
He said, it's about nothing. I said, it's a nice little tune. There is a nice little beat to it. But... yeah, that's it. I said, can I share it? And he was like, please do. So he's trying to get a name for himself as well. So.
But do you not find that sort of complimentary?
Absolutely.
Yeah, because obviously he thought, there's somebody famous. It's Glenda. I'll do something.
Yeah.
And it wasn't rude or it wasn't crude.
No.
So I think...
Do you know what? You just reminded me there. Mario Rosenstock, I had to interview him years ago. And I know Mario now, but this was back when I didn't know him. And my first thing I said to him when we started the interview, I said, how do you feel when you come face to face with someone that you take the piss out of for a living? Because he was taking the mick out of me with a feckin' kebab in his hand. And I was like, and this big stupid hairband. I was like, where did that? But he said to me, when I said that to him, he said, it's the biggest form of flattery.
There you go.
He said, so take it as that. And I said, oh, great, okay. But then I asked him, where did you get that kebab? And he says, we were outside Reynard's one night about 3 o'clock in the morning. He said, you were gathering troops to go back to a party. I said, did I have a kebab in my hand? He said, no. But he said, I had to throw. So there you go. That's why your man talking about in the back of a van. They have to.
Totally. As I said, and the fact that it wasn't crude or anything like that was perfect.
Yeah.
You never met him face to face, did you?
No. And I didn't live in the back of a van with him. So.
No, you're not the lady in the van. That was Maggie Smith, wasn't it?
That's it. That's a great movie, actually.
Yeah. Are you watching Dancing with the Stars at the moment?
I am watching Dancing with the Stars.
You love it?
I love that. I'm a big fan.
All right. And you did it?
I did it.
Tell us all.
Yeah, I did it. I took it on. I suppose in this job, to be given an opportunity to learn how to dance. It's weird that I came out of it still not knowing how to dance, but it was tough going. Look, when I left the thing, I was pregnant. When I went into the thing, I had a 7-month-old child. I was on Ireland AM. I was up at 4 a.m. doing Ireland AM and puking into a bin. And then I'd come home. I'd go straight down to the Long Mile Road and do 5 hours of dancing. And then come home and look after a child and then cry for the rest of the evening. It was miserable, because I was miserable on it, you know.
Where'd you find the time to get pregnant in the middle of all of that? Jeez.
You always find time for that, Linda.
Oh,
Only joking. I know. I don't know.
That's just mental.
Yeah.
Mental.
Yeah, it was tough going now. I loved it. The show's great.
Yeah.
But it was tough going.
Yeah, I'd say so. I'd say so, because I'm fascinated by it, and I've spoken to Larry about it. But the problem is for me, the rehearsals start December, I think.
Yeah.
And that's entertainment's busy time, you see.
You're about 6 weeks at it before even it's mentioned in the world.
Correct.
So when they eventually go, okay, so Dancing with the Stars is on in January, it's like we've been at it for 6 weeks, and then they start introducing.
Yeah.
So yeah, it is tough going.
Yeah, but I think you're as fit as a fiddle anyway, and you were in Ireland's Fittest Family. Are you competitive?
I probably was growing up as when I was young and fit and trained and did, but not so much anymore. That was an experience. So Rob did it with me, my husband. He loved it. Now there's the most competitive man you'll ever meet in your life. I remember we were in a relay and I saw Rob running by me and in the corner of my eye, and I turned to my cousin. I said, "Is that Rob?" And he said, "Yeah." I said, "I've never seen him move that fast in my life. Like, Rob's always like, my foot's sore, this is sore."
Yeah.
He legged it.
Wow.
He was very good at it now, and we got so far, and then we were in the semi-final, and then we didn't get any further.
Well, Emma Doran spoke about your competitiveness now, so she must have been basing it on something.
I know. Now, there's another comedian exaggerating. She called me an Amazonian woman. She said I tried to gouge her eyes out. And if you see the clip, I grab her here.
Yeah.
And I actually pull at her trousers, her shorts. I don't know, like you're just trying to get out of the trenches. And she did this to my eye.
Oh, God.
So I was like, listen here. But
Oh, I'd say you give her a bit of a...
but poor Emma arrived with her auntie, who was, I think, in her 60s.
Yeah.
She had a little cousin with her who was 13. Like, it was like... They were gone before they even started.
Was your mother with you?
No, my mother wouldn't be able to walk from here. I had Rob, I had my cousin from LA who's a fireman. He flew in for it. And then we had Rob's cousin who was 27-year-old. So we kept them young and fit. I was brutal, but anyway.
Yeah, but it sounded good fun. Like,
It was
serious.
That's another tough one. I don't
Yeah.
know why I do these
I
things
don't know
to myself.
Would you ever entertain going into the jungle?
I don't think I'd be able for that. I couldn't eat all that crap.
Yeah.
I really couldn't. I'd love all the mad jumping off cliffs and through the river. Remember they used to do all
They
those
used to
things.
do them, yeah. It's probably insurance issues now.
But now it's all about eating witchetty grub and eating kangaroo ball. I just, no thanks.
No. But speaking of dancing, is Yaz big on getting walked?
Yaz loves her walks.
Okay.
Yes.
And can she be walked at the moment after her injury?
She's walking on 3 legs at the moment. I don't think I told you what happened, Yaz. She was attacked by 2 other dogs. God love her. She lay on her back and surrendered. And they grabbed her forelimb, which is like our forearm here, so between here and here.
Now, take me back. Sorry for being rude and interrupting you. Our viewers won't know what we know, obviously. So what actually happened to her?
Well, that's what I'm telling you. She was out, Yaz was out for a walk one day. My dad actually took her out for a walk. And my dad had a hip replacement, so my
Right.
dad had a walking stick with him and the dog.
Yeah.
And 2 German Shepherds came running towards her. And she lay down, she surrendered, she put her paws up in the air, and they grabbed her and
I can hear her.
shattered her forelimb, I think it's called, yes. And she had to have surgery. She's loads of pins in there. We're now bringing her for hydrotherapy, which is a heated swimming pool. There's a lady that does that with them, and she brings him around the pool and gets him working those muscles. So the paw was kind of going out this way, and now it's straight. Are you giving out to me for talking about you?
Yeah. Where is this happening?
It's called the Canine Country Club, and it's out in Kildare.
Very nice.
Canine Country Club. It
Doesn't
sounds very, yes.
Sounds very posh.
But the lady puts a life jacket on Yaz, and there's a handle on the back, and she keeps going.
Yeah.
So the first day we went in, the splashes were hitting the roof, and now she has
Now
it.
she's calm. And this, is it working, basically?
It's slow. It's a slow process. Yaz obviously has lost her shoulder. Her shoulder muscles are totally gone. So we
Right.
have to build that back up. But when I come home and you're having a bit of crack with her, I have a bit of it. She puts it down. I can see her putting it down.
Right.
I also do this kind of. I put my hand under a blanket, and she loves to bite it. And when I'm doing that, the 2 paws go down. So I keep doing that with her, trying to.
Okay.
But it's very slow.
Yeah. And
very
how many
slow.
times a week are you there?
Twice a week.
Okay. Cost, if you don't mind telling us?
It's 50 quid a session. So.
Okay.
So yeah, it all adds up, but we want her to there was the vet suggested amputating her leg. Like, as you can see, she doesn't need her leg amputated.
No.
She's moving it. There's I laughed though where the injury was. All the hair that's grown back is grown back jet black. The rest of her is kind of a bit of a grey colour, and that's grown back like new hair, but she's great. But that's why she's a little bit rounder. She's eating more. She's not exercising as much.
Yeah. But tell me, the water she's exercising
Yeah.
in, is that just warm tap water, or is there mineral salts in it, or what is it?
I don't think so. I think it's just a heated swimming pool, and it's all about the heat. The heat works, so your muscles. So if she was in cold water, she it wouldn't be as
You would tense up, as we would do, yes.
Yeah. So what is wrong? Yes. So the hot water in the swimming pool is helping all her muscles.
Yeah. Have you no treats over there for her? There
She's
must
actually
be
taking
something.
them all out of here. I think she wants to go to the toilet. Yazzie. Do you want to go out, Yaz?
Does she do any tricks?
She used to give the paw.
But at the moment...
But now she's leaning on one paw with one paw up, so...
Yeah. Glenda, how do you think she's impacted your life?
Oh my God, she's just made it so much better. The love, like I have to say, when I come in and the love her up against the window when you know yourself.
Yeah, I know.
And then I could close the door and go out and get something in the boot, and I get the exact same welcome
Yeah,
2
yeah.
seconds later. She's brilliant. I do remember when I had Bobby first, my eldest son, she went into a bit of a depression for a couple of weeks because it was all eyes on the child, you know.
Absolutely.
And she had been the baby for
Yeah.
so long, and it was sad, and I knew it was happening. I was told it was going to happen. I could see it happening in front of me, and I was it was hard. But
So what did you do? Tell us. The
I
process.
kiss and hug her 20 million times a day.
Right.
Every time I see her, I'm down on the ground and I kiss
Right.
and I hug her and rubbing her. Rob feeds her, so she loves Rob for the feeding. He
Yeah.
does all that. I am always wrapping her in blankets and rubbing her and hugging her. But
is that how you got her to accept Bobby?
But
Yeah.
she always accepted Bobby. I think it was myself and Rob moving away from her.
Yeah.
Like, she loves the kids, and now she's a different dog. Like,
Yeah.
she just wants to be with the kids. If the kids are in the TV room, she wants to be in there with them.
Brilliant.
And they drive her mad. Like, they don't have the time for. I think dogs are for adults, really.
But they have goodies, don't forget that.
Yeah, always.
Yeah, and
finger licking good.
I remember Karen Coster when she was in with us, and she was talking about her dogs and what she did to introduce her babies to the dogs, and it was perfect.
Does she have 2 dogs now?
Yeah, she does.
I tell you, because I remember when she got Brownie, that first dog, and she wasn't happy about it at all. She's like,
very
I'm not a dog. But she loved the dog, so I can't believe she has 2 now.
Absolutely, and I wanted her to tell us, so as the viewer, the listeners could find out what she did to introduce 2 established dogs to a baby.
Yeah.
And she told all about her method and what she did every day and how she introduced, and it's perfect. It worked perfectly for her.
I remember we used to find her, she was gone around the house, and we'd be like, where is she? And she'd be just off in a quiet place on her own. And,
Yeah.
But yeah, if I hug the kids, the lads, I see her coming around. It's like, so I have to go down and give her a hug as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. Do you know something? If you could, would you bring her along to the Oscars?
If I could bring her, what? The actual Oscars in LA.
Yeah.
Jesus, talk about enough stress going on. They're bringing a dog.
Does Tom Hardy not bring his recent rescue to the Oscars? I think
the only thing is I'd have to keep her up here.
to keep her up. No, he waddles in. I think it's Tom Hardy, but there's one of them anyway. He waddles in, and the dog's up with the people are going up the centre red carpet thing. But he's delighted. He just says, "Don't care, my dog, rescue dog." End of story.
Well, there you go.
Did you find the Oscars nerve-wracking?
Yes, but amazing.
Yeah.
Like, it was just a highlight.
And
Like,
how long were you there for?
oh my God, how many times was I there? I was probably there 6 times, I'd
Right.
say.
And would you have to be there from like 2:00 in the afternoon, standing in your spot?
10 a.m.
No way.
Yeah, and the people arriving, and that goes on till about 5, 6, 7 o'clock. Yeah.
The stars are coming in
they
all
start.
that time.
It starts, and you're there the day before to see them put down to build it all up, and everything's covered in plastic, and you can go through your run-throughs there, and then it was.
So, do you mean the likes of Meryl Streep arrive like hours before?
She'd arrive at probably 5 to 6 when the Oscars starts at 6 o'clock. I think they start around 4 o'clock, to be honest with you. So she'd be there probably a quarter to 4. But like all the young actors, actresses, the costume designs, all the music people, you know, they could have them there early. And sure, they're happy to be there. Sometimes it's people's first time. It's the Meryl Streeps who are like, oh, Jesus,
So
am I going to win this? I'm not going unless.
So what do they do all day? Drink? Eat?
I've never been inside. I've only stood on the carpet, so I don't know. I'll tell you the time I get there, when I get there.
Who was the nicest star you met on that red carpet?
Who was the nicest star I met?
Who took time with you?
You don't get as many on that red carpet as you would. I met Samuel L. Jackson.
Oh, I love him.
And
you shouldn't have told me that.
He did a thing in UCD in Dublin one day, and he ate the face off every photographer in this city. He said, "If you want my picture, you all stand here." And they were all like,
all right.
They probably needed that, you know. But Nicole Kidman was there. I wouldn't have met anyone brilliant on that.
Okay. But you see, I want to know. So therefore, our viewers want to know.
Who
Who was the rudest to you?
was the cutest. Do you know who was great? Always great. And I've always said this, is Robbie Williams is always a treat.
Yeah.
Always a treat. Like, I went to the Soho Hotel in London to interview him one time, and I knocked on the door. You'd go up to these hotel rooms, they'd just so you'd explain to everyone, yes, please, 5 more minutes. You'd explain to everyone, they strip out the bedrooms and they set it up like an interview area,
Right.
like what we have going
Yeah.
on here. And I knocked on the door and he opened the door of a hotel room, and he had a white vest on and a pair of jeans and a cigarette behind his ear, and he says, all right, darling, he said, come on in. And I remember for a minute going, I'm going into a hotel room with Robbie Williams.
yeah.
But when we went through the corridor and into the room, all the PRs were there, but that just shows you what he's like. He's like, I'll get the door. Anyway, went in and he said, where are you actually coming from? And I said, Dublin. And from then on, I interviewed him a lot of times. He'd call me the Dublin one. He never remembered my name, but he was always like the Dublin one. And he'd say, that red eye. He'd say, I remember coming out of the pod and having to get on that. And it was like so normal.
Yeah.
And we sat down. It was when he decided to come back. So there was a lot of take that questions in there. And I had a cameraman with me and they had a cameraman, but it was a 2-camera shot. And we started rolling, we were into it, and my cameraman put up his hand and went, I forgot to press record.
Oh, Jesus.
And I looked at him, I was like, I'm going to kick your head in. And he was like, I'm so sorry, Glenda. And Robbie went, it's okay. And the PR went, no, we've no time. And he went, she didn't fly all this way over to get half an interview. He said, go again, love, turn on your camera. He said, ask me the exact same questions. And I was like, really? Asked me the exact same. So I said, hey, Robbie. And he was like, all right, John, did you get the red eye over? And did the exact same thing again.
Fantastic.
And I
love
applaud
that.
him for that.
But you
because-
know something? It's the way he was reared, because his dad served his time in Butlins.
Yeah? Oh,
He was-
really?
yes, he was a red coat, you see.
There you go.
So Robbie would have had all of that experience as a child growing up.
Yeah.
He knew what to do.
But I interviewed him for a press conference. He came over to Dublin then to announce one of his concerts.
Yeah.
And we were all at a press conference and I put up my hand and asked him a question. Now, I had an interview afterwards with him, so I really shouldn't have asked him a question because you're not supposed to eat up. But I said to him, I know you've had plenty of good nights out here in Dublin. I said, you're now off the drink. What way do you think the partying will be? And he said, I'll tell you one good story. He said, I was in Bono's house. And he said, I was drinking, and he said, I was on something psychedelic, he said. Now, he said this to the whole room, and he said he was in Bono's house and he was staring at the wall and he was like, wow, Bono, this painting is amazing. And Bono came over and leaned on his shoulder and said, Robbie, you big idiot, that's the window. Now, we don't all live in Dalkey and look out on that beauty, but you can imagine. But he said that, and that was given out. I remember that was in every newspaper the next day. That was the line. Now, it wasn't that I asked him. Everyone grabbed it as they would.
I remember Robbie telling a story about Jerry Halliwell happened to be in his flat one time, and the press were outside. They'd gotten wind of it, and she said, how am I going to get out of here? Yeah. And he said the only solution was, she was such a tiny little thing. He says, I had a big sports bag, one of these jobbies. He says, I put her into it and zipped it up, slung it over my shoulder, and walked out with her over my shoulder. And they hadn't a clue. And you just think to yourself, God bless it.
Yeah.
Oh, listen.
The stories.
But here, now listen, I want to sort of sadden things down, because we've all lost dogs.
Yes.
And we all go through the grieving process. Were you very, very badly affected when you lost, what you call the first little dog I remember you having?
Oh, I know the dog you're talking about. Harley is the dog. It was a Lhasa Apso, which I lost just before Yazz. Harley had prostate cancer. And Harley had to go.
Yeah.
And he couldn't go to the toilet anymore on his own, so we had to bring him up to the vets. They had to sedate him, and they had to. And I never forget, I was in Spain, and my folks came over to me, Yazz, and my folks came over to me, and my dad said, Glenda, when you go home now, bring the dog to the vet. He has to be put down. I said, okay, Dad. And my dad came back 2 weeks later and the dog greeted him. He was like, you didn't. I was like, you're telling me to bring a totally healthy, normal dog to a feckin' Grim Reaper to put him down? He was like, oh, Jesus. But he was like, anyway, I went up to the vet and the vet said, you can't keep your dog just because you want your dog around. And I just went, that was the final. I said, yeah, okay, I'm being selfish. So we had to put poor Harley down, and I loved Harley. I think I was the only one in the world who loved Harley, though. Harley didn't like anyone. and Harley's teeth used to come over her top lip.
Yeah.
I loved that dog, and she's like a little cartoon character. He was gorgeous. I'm getting the he and she's mixed up now. My first dog was called Toto. My second dog was Gizmo. Believe it or not, I had a dog called Bobby. I now have a child called Bobby.
I thought that. Now, just a few minutes ago, I was going to say when you lost Bobby, and in my brain, I said,
you were like, that's what.
wrong Bobby.
Bobby. And then Harley. Harley was the one who's... Bobby was like a Jack Russell mad thing.
Yeah.
And he got knocked down. But anyway, it's so tough.
And you were with it at the end.
Yeah.
I think that's important. You can't just hand it over, go and take it to the vet.
Oh, listen,
you got to be...
No, I was hugging the... I don't even like even talking about it, yeah.
Did you replace Harley almost immediately?
No, I couldn't. And I remember Rob, we'd go away down the country, we were in Kerry, and Rob said, there's a fella around the corner, there's dogs in a home around there, let's go around. And I went around and looked, and I was like, I just wasn't feeling it for a long time. And then I got Yazz, and I think it was probably a year or so later.
Right place, right time.
Yeah.
But everybody's different.
I was ready to love again, I was like, no one can replace my Harley.
Because I've had to put countless dogs down, and it's difficult every time.
Yeah.
There's no question about that. And sometimes the phone will ring almost immediately, can you? And some other creature will come in. Or sometimes it doesn't happen for weeks. But I do understand that everybody's so different about losing their pet. You know, you just have
and see, because you have a load of dogs, I've only Yazz, and I'm afraid, like, even, I'd love another dog, but even with her injury, I'm afraid if I brought another dog in, she'd really go into a depression.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know?
Now, let me ask you, take yourself back to when you were 16. What advice or what would you say to yourself?
What would I say to my 16-year-old self? And how many times I've been asked this question, I still don't know the answer. I don't know, to live. I did live, though, and I enjoyed life a lot. I suppose not to care about what other people think.
Yeah.
Because I think as we get older, we don't really give a shit.
No.
But when we're younger, we do everything.
Absolutely.
You know? So, yeah, I'd probably tell myself to chill out. But you can't say that to a teenager.
No.
We got to live. And Yazz wants to go, Linda.
Yeah,
you see that?
Does. Right, so listen, she wants to go. She probably needs her wee-wee. So, quick round.
Okay.
Would you lick the same spoon as Yazz?
No.
All right. Can you imitate her bark?
Yeah, probably, but I'm not doing it now.
All right. If she was a human, what job would she have?
If she was a human, testing out mattresses, because she's a great sleeper.
That's good. Yeah, mattress tester. All right. What's the most disgusting thing she's ever done? Knowing her, probably nothing.
Nothing, because she's one of those breeds that she doesn't... Like, I've had a few Jack Russells. They bring in things into the house. God. She's like having a little miniature princess in the house. She's there's never any food on her mouth. She's as good as gold. She's now sick listening to us. That's what's wrong with her there.
Listen, take her out for a wee-wees. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Linda.
So much for giving us your time. I really appreciate it. And I've learned loads.
I really enjoyed this. It's like a coffee morning.
I'm as nosy as people that are going to be listening, but it's been great to see you again, and you're looking so well.
Thank you.
And Yazz is almost recovered, thankfully.
Oh, hopefully. And right back at you. Thanks a million.
No, not a bother. Dog Almighty is brought to you by Tesco. So for a happy and healthy pet, shop online or in store at the Tesco Pet Shop for all your furry friends' needs. So if you've been listening, and I hope you have, give the podcast a follow and a 5-star review.